paying a lawyer hundreds an hour for simple legal tasks? Ryan Marks said, no thanks, and he found a better way. Learn how he uses Rocket Lawyer to save time, money, and stay protected on this episode of Small Business Spotlight. Hey everybody, welcome to the Small Business Spotlight. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com. And today I get to speak to Ryan Marks, who's with Uesco Industries. Ryan, I hope your day is beautiful and blessed and well as we jump into this amazing interview and discussion about you and about how you're using Rocket Lawyer. So Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
Ryan, let's jump right into it and help you understand what is Uesco Industries. I can guess. I see some cool pictures behind you, but I think I'm going to let you tell me what it is. What is Uesco Industries, Brian?
No problem, Raymond. So we're an overhead crane manufacturer and runway builder. We operate in the overhead material handling space, which is basically mostly used in industrial applications. We've been around for 104 years, since 1921. I am a fourth generation owner, so kind of fun, kind of
beautiful.
Cool.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I heard a statistic from somebody one time told me that 1.5% of businesses, privately held businesses in the United States, have that status, and if you go deeper than that, it gets even smaller. So it's something that we're very, very proud of. We've got a lot of employees that have been with us for a very long time. And basically what we do is we manufacture our product and we sell it across the country through a distribution network. So we've got about 50 or so distributors across the country that are selling our cranes and runway systems and different overhead material handling products to their end user bases. And that could be anywhere from aerospace to steel to automotive to process manufacturers, injection mold. There's a whole wide range of things that have overhead cranes. You'd be amazed if I went through all the different industries that actually use our product.
I'm going to take a stab in the proverbial dark. I live in the New York area and cross a lot of bridges that are being repaired. What I have seen your product or products like yours on bridges is that you see some metal structures. They're yellow as well. Would that be, or is that a whole different industry and different thing? Or could you imagine?
It's not a whole different industry. It's a whole different type of crane.
Okay.
So boom cranes, tower cranes. Cranes is a very, very broad topic. The ones that you see behind me, those are overhead bridge cranes. Those are primarily inside of facilities. Those are the ones that we concentrate on.
Got it, very much. And then if you don't mind, let's dive a little deeper just for those who don't know. Give us a for example. Is it as simple as what we're seeing, meaning you're not going on the floor back and forth, but an object needs to go back and forth in the air, whatever it may be, that's what you do. Is it pretty much as simple as that or more?
Yeah, so think about a three-dimensional space. Okay. And you're picking up something very, very heavy, anywhere from 2,000 pounds to, 150,000 pounds. And you've got to pick it up and move it somewhere. Either you're staging it for another operation in how it's being manufactured. It's a shipping crane and you're moving it onto something that's going into another facility. You're bringing raw material in and now you're going to move it somewhere to process it. So it's anything that you can do inside of a facility in a three-dimensional space and move it around. And what it allows operators to be able to do that without needing a large forklift or other types of material handling equipment. So it allows you to have more space, allows you to work in tighter conditions and safer as well.
I love it. Well, again, thank you for being here and thank you for being a Rocket Lawyer customer. With that, I have a lot of questions to ask you about family businesses and your keys to success. But first, let's dive right into Rocket Lawyer. Can you just open the floor? How are you using Rocket Lawyer? Maybe did you start using it 4 generations ago? And
Unfortunately, no.
Talk to us a bit about Rocket Lawyer experience and where unpack that journey for us. We'll start there, please.
Where Rocket Lawyer comes in is for those quick things that you want to make sure is taken care of. Perfect example is I've got an employee who wants to borrow some money and get it taken out of their paycheck every month until it gets paid back. Well, I can jump on Rocket Lawyer. I can put in the parameters of what that is. I can print out a document that both, our HR department and the employee sign and use that document to track and have it in their employee file on, why we took that money out of their paycheck and what it was for and everything else. Another example might be a sales contract that we're going to do with a new salesperson. I might go on there, look at their commission structures and see what we've got kind of going on there for Rocket Lawyer, go in, create a document that I'm going to be able to use for an employee agreement or something like that. I've also used Rocket Lawyer for, we've acquired some different buildings and things like that over the past. So I've used it to set up some LLCs, and I've used it to set up some real estate documents and those kinds of things. Because again, these are things where I can do it quick. Rocket Lawyer isn't very expensive, and I don't have to get my attorney who's on retainer who's going to charge me lots of dollars per hour to do those simple types of tasks.
I love those scenarios. And so what I'm hearing, Ryan, just to underline that as you're talking to the businesses out there that are considering it and love the scenario, you can have an attorney. Attorneys are great. Use them for what you need them for. But you just mentioned there's several things that, you're a smart guy, Ryan, from what I can tell. And, listen, you know what you want to do. You know where you're going, but you want that legal protection. Spin up Rocket Lawyer, hit a few buttons, boop, and it's done. You've said that in so many words, but am I on the right track? Kind of how you, kind of a Swiss Army knife, a quick tool. Let me get this done, but I want to be secure. I want to be legally smart. And so Rocket Lawyer can definitely fill that void. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I'll kind of design what it is that I'm looking for, what I want, and then I'll search it on Rocket Lawyer to see if something is already created that's been verified and whatnot. And I also like how Rocket Lawyer allows you to pick what states you're in too. So they're obviously looking at the individual laws for those states as well. So it's just kind of like that little bit of assurance that you get, because you can design stuff, using ChatGPT and using other things like that, but you don't necessarily know if it's really been verified or if it's really legally binding.
That's true. You don't want to go to Judge Judy and say, Judge Judy, the internet said this. She's going to put her glasses down and go, what? For sure. Ryan, talk about as well, do you use Rocket Lawyer at all for the storage components? Meaning, I know that many people have talked about kind of as they do these agreements, they can go back to Rocket Lawyer and store it. If you don't, it's okay. But do you also find that benefit and other ways you may use it beyond the legal agreement? I know Rocket Lawyer has a number of different parts to it. Anything else that comes to mind? Talk about that.
So the only way that I've really used that is when I've done different types of loans for employees. I think I did one other commission sales agreement where I went back into my original document and I made modifications. Sure. But we have a whole document storage that we do here at work, so it all goes into that. It doesn't necessarily stay in Rocket Lawyer, if that makes sense. I think most business owners, care about the viability and the continuation of their business. And, I look at a lot of contracts all the time because we get into different municipal things, government, everything else, GCs. So I'm reading a lot of contracts. And there's a lot of things in there that, unless you read them all the time, you don't really understand. You don't know why they're in there, like different indemnities and, different clauses and those types of things. And I think that you can get yourself in trouble if you don't have some type of resource that is essentially verifying what it is that you're trying to do, both from a legal standpoint and from an ethical standpoint. Because you might sit there and go, okay, here, this is what I'm going to do. And then it might not be ethical or it might not be legal in the state that you're trying to do it. So I think that's one of the reasons why I use a resource like Rocket Lawyer instead of just using my own experience, is for those types of reasons. Because God forbid, you're planning for worst case scenarios.
Yes.
Right? So God forbid a crane falls on somebody, or God forbid something happens in a building you're trying to purchase, or whatever. You want to make sure the whole point of a legal document, the whole point of that is to basically cover yourself in a worst case scenario situation, a worst case scenario type of predicament. You don't think those things are going to happen. You don't want those things to happen. But if they do happen, you want to make sure that you're covered. You want to make sure that you've been taken care of. And I've learned a lot about that, not only through my own business, but also working through my own attorney, where essentially when he looks at a problem, he doesn't look at it as a problem as, he looks at the problem specifically from a legal perspective of what could possibly happen if, or how could somebody interpret if. And I think that's something that if you're not thinking about that way all the time, then it's really hard for you to step into that mindset when you need to. So you need somebody or some resource that is doing that for you.
For sure. It's kind of like being in a marriage. Me, my wife, she says, can you go to the store? And I'm thinking in my mind, go to the store like tomorrow. And she's thinking, nah, I need you to go to the store today. That's a problem, right? Right.
I think we all have.
Yes, indeed. You're a fourth generation business, which for me is just amazing. And I'm just so proud of you, as it were. I just love that. Ryan, can you talk to us? What do you think are the keys to success that Uesco Industries has been doing all these many years and you're the flag holder today. Can you just talk about that, behind the scenes a bit? What have you done right? Where does the business stand today? A little about yourself. Feel free to riff a bit on the background, please.
Yeah, sure, of course. So the company started back with my great grandfather back in 1921. We were electrical maintenance shop.
Mm,
And it's kind of interesting because all through all generations of our family business, we've been a small business. So it kind of what I mean by that is like if something happened to my grandfather or my great grandfather or my father, we wouldn't exist
mhm.
because we didn't have those types of protections in place. And what I mean by that is there's different positions where like if I walked away for 2 months,
Right.
the business might not grow. It might not go in directions that I want it to go, but it'd still be here.
Hmm.
I'd come back in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, and we'd still be operating. We'd still be making product. We'd still be making sales. So I've done a lot to put those types of positions and those type of people in place so that I can focus more on strategic development and I can focus on where we're going in the future. Then how do we stay right here and stay afloat? So in the last 4 years that I've been president of the company, that's kind of really been my main focus was how do we create sustainability? And that's kind of where we've been looking at things. The other thing we've been looking at is we've been looking at expansion. Essentially, how do we double, triple the size of the business? A lot of it has to do with real estate and be able to just produce more because these are very large pieces of equipment. They need a lot of space. And the other is how we go to market and what we've been doing that. So we've recently developed. It's been in development for about a year and a half, but we recently launched a program, an iPhone app, an Android app, and a website called Crane IQ that allows our distributors and other architects and engineers around the country to be able to design systems right on the web, both runways and cranes and things, where it gives our distributors actual pricing that they can turn into orders, and then it gives architects and engineers a set of drawings that they can use inside of their facilities to design and work with their stuff. So that's kind of where we kind of see the future is being able to build more and be able to generate more business through these technology tools that we've developed. And some of the things that have kept us going is, I like to say this is, we build cranes like when men were steel and tools were wood. So we focus a lot on internal training development.
Yes.
We have an 8-tier program that's internal to us that our employees go through when they start, and they get up to different tiers that includes different pay. And we do what's called micro raises. So we do essentially there's a skill set for each one of these tiers, and we do a quarterly review with every employee. And then we do every 6 months, they have an opportunity for a raise. So they always have something looking forward to. It keeps them very sticky. And we're always evaluating what's going on. So it helps you identify your A players, your B players, and your C players very, very quickly. It also helps you accelerate people who want to be accelerated because they're kind of under their own fruition to do that. So it really helps with some of the things that I know that a lot of employers are having problems with, which is keeping people, hiring people, and those kind of things. So that's kind of helped us with that. And then we've been building the same way for so long. We're always looking at ways to cut costs, increase efficiencies through lean manufacturing and suppliers and other types of things, while being able to create a better product for our customers, because there's a lot of maintenance that goes on these machines. And if you don't build them right, if you don't make them maintenance friendly, it can actually be hazardous. So we've got a lot of customers where they're repeat customers. In other words, if somebody's got one Uesco crane, they've got many Uesco cranes. If they don't have a Uesco crane, it's our job to get one in there. But once they've got one in there, they're going to buy more. We do a lot of things with that. And I guess that, what falls in with all of that is essentially, our people are what make this company. We've been a family business for a long time, but it's our people. So it's investing in our people, it's recognizing our people, and it's understanding that when I come to work every day and certain managers come to work every day, we're here to work for our people and to work for our customers. We're not here for ourselves, because if we were here for ourselves, we wouldn't have the right mindset. We wouldn't have the right kind of, vision going forward, because the people are that work for you are more important than anything else. Besides, obviously, God and your family.
I listen to you and I are simpatico on that. No, I love your spirit and I love what you're saying. I have hundreds of questions to ask you, and I wish we had hours. Maybe I'll have to have you back again. Talk about your background, Ryan. Who are you? I mean, where did you come from? Like, Tell me your background. Were you a chef somewhere in a kitchen and your dad said, "Hey, you want to run this company?" Were you, I don't know, playing rugby in college one day? And give me the genesis of how you got here, if that makes sense, you know?
So, believe it or not, my brother was supposed to go into the crane business,
Okay.
and unfortunately, that didn't work out. And I was actually going to school to be an attorney,
Okay.
of all things. And it wasn't until I got through my LSAT and I got accepted to a law school in the Chicago area that my father pushed me towards the crane business. He was going to sell it when he got done if none of us went into it.
Wow. So
And I
sorry to cut you
knew
off there, but
all.
that is the typical family business. That's like, I've grown it. I'm a little older, I'm assuming, or whatever the situation, and I got to sell it or it's going to dissolve. Going to continue. But that we hear this a lot, correct?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, I was going to go to law school and I was going to do that path. And I knew all the employees that were here. I mean, we've got employees been with us for when my dad retired. There were several employees that retired with him that had over 45 years.
Well, that's beautiful.
And we still have some employees who have over 40 years, 30 years. But I knew their families. I went to the Christmas parties, everything else. And I went, we were an 85-year company at that time, celebrating 85 years. And I went, okay, I got to at least I got to give it a shot. But I never worked in the shop when I was younger. I never did this. I remember I was a wedding disc jockey for 10 years from,
Nice.
beginning of high school through the end of college. So I actually went back to community college and I took welding and I took electromechanical and I took industrial controls and I took machine shop and AutoCAD and all this things because I didn't really know the business that I was getting into, but I could always sell. I could always be in front of people. That was just a skill that I possessed. So I've been in it now for 19 years, but it was a real struggle in the beginning because I had to learn what it was that I was actually doing. Now I've been a crane guy and I couldn't imagine being anything else. And, it's worked out really well. But in the beginning, it was tough. It was very tough. I had a lot of times of questioning going, do I really want to stay down this path? Do I really want to do what I'm doing? Especially when I was making the kind of money I was making in the very beginning. On top
Sure,
of it.
sure.
So, it was interesting to say the least.
Yes.
But that's kind of where I came from is where I evolved to where I'm at today.
I love it. And Ryan, one last question, and I have so many, but I want to, if I save some time, like you'll say yes, hopefully, if I ask you again. Ryan, what is your one or two or three best tips for entrepreneurs? And I know that's a large question. There's so many different types and stages and all those things. But from your experience, all this is taken away from you. You had to start again, or you're giving advice to your long lost son or daughter. You know what I mean? Somebody's leaving. Ryan, before we go, three words. Ryan, what would you say, Ramon? Whatever you do, here's something to think about. Can you give me that from your experience?
So there's two things that I live by that were instilled by my father was always do your homework. So in other words, research as much as you possibly can about something before you make a decision. Make sure you understand it. And when you're about 70% sure, pull the trigger because you're never going to be 100% sure.
That's right. Wow.
The other thing was anything that makes you more efficient, that you can automate, that you can take out of your head and put into a process, invest in it. Invest money in those types of things. Anything that automates anything from a software standpoint, from a production standpoint, from a life standpoint, automate as much as you can, create efficiencies and processes, and be willing to invest in those types of things.
Wow. Anything I didn't ask you, anything you wanted to share on this episode of the Rocket Lawyer Small Business Spotlight? I definitely want to have you back again, Ryan. But anything else that you wanted to share? And if not, it's okay. But I always ask that before I end.
No, in the perspective of Rocket Lawyer, I think it's been a great resource. I think I've used it the way that I've wanted to use it, which has worked out. I think there's other ways that you could use it. But as a supplementary tool, it's been very, very good for us. And I think it's helped us save some situations that, I would have had to go to my normal attorney for.
I love that. Ryan Marks with Uesco Industries. Thanks so much for being with Ramon Ray here on the Rocket Lawyer Spotlight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.